So we're going to work on these rule-based paintings today, and the rules are merely a way to get you started, to sort of leap right over that feeling of, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to start. So that's why you have rules, and I've set up several rules for these paintings for you, which I'm going to put up on the screen in a little while. But basically, we're going to be using small sheets of paper. And this is actually 6 inches by 9. And I simply took my 12 by 18 paper, folded it once halfways, and cut those in half, and then the other way halfways and cut that in half. So I got 4 of these pieces of paper out of one 12 by 18. Now I'm just using drawing paper, but you could use something a little bit heavier if you'd like the nice BFK Reeves paper that we've talked about. But what I've got is 10 sheets to start with, and we're going to start with 10. And the reason we start with so many is that I believe that whenever you do a lot of something, there's much less pressure on just the one. So you feel a little bit more relaxed about working, and it flows a little more freely. So my first direction was to take one of the 2 colors that I had asked you to mix up and simply paint background color. This is so that we don't have white all the time. And there's nothing wrong with working on a white background, but in this case, I want you to see what happens when you already have a background, a flat color. And for this particular exercise, I'm going to ask you to paint half of your colors one color, rather half of the pieces of paper, your 5 sheets of paper one color, and 5 sheets another color background. And you can choose to go all the way to the edge or almost to the edge, doesn't really matter. I'm going to go halfway, all right, almost to the edge here, just to leave a little, because I just don't want to get the table. But so there you see, this paint, which has a little bit of white mixed into it and makes it opaque as opposed to transparent, just makes a very nice background and a nice way to work against what we're going to be adding. So my next rule is to use some of the work that we've been making these last couple of weeks. And as you know, it includes the papers that we made from our painting to music. And I just kind of did this on my own. And then all the pieces of paper that we've got where you've done your brush work, your black paint or ink and brush work, making contour line drawings. So this is not exactly what you guys have done, but it gives you a general idea. It's still brush marks on paper. So those are the 2 things that I'm going to make as my rules, that I always have to use some part of those 2 assignments that we did in class in my rule-based paintings. So our first rule is to paint backgrounds on all the sheets of paper. Our second rule is in every, well, we're actually doing collage here. In every collage piece, we're going to use some element of either the contour line painting or the painting to music piece. So you've already got stuff to add. So that's really helpful. Again, instead of just, feeling paralyzed by not knowing what you're going to work with, you have things to work with just from the get-go. So how would we approach this? Well, one thing you could do is tear these elements and use the torn elements in your piece. The other thing you could do is use a scissors or an X-Acto blade and cut out those elements on in your piece. I think I'm going to start with my painted brush strokes, and I'm going to just use a pair of scissors. So the other thing is you're going to have a time limit. So I'm going to ask you to try and do all of these 10 pieces in approximately half an hour's worth of time, which means that you don't have a lot of time to think. Another really good thing. But one thing you might do is take your scissors, and you know, you have such a short amount of time, you can't afford to be precious. You can't afford to be too picky. You just have to go for it. Another really great thing to do to keep you moving, to keep you not getting stuck, is to have this element of time pressure. So I'm going to take this, I made a square. I don't know why I made a square, but I made a square. And I'm going to glue this piece down onto my piece of paper, and I'm just going to randomly choose a place to do that. So I'm going to glue, and the glue that I'm using is actually soft gel gloss medium. Comes in different containers. This just happens to be one that I have easily accessible, but you can also use Elmer's glue or any kind of glue you happen to have. Really, pretty much anything will work for our purposes. Yes Glue is one I like to recommend because it doesn't have any water in it, and so your pieces of paper tend not to curl as much. But what you might want to do is just squeeze out a little bit of the glue onto a piece of cardboard or plastic, and then I'm going to use this little knife that just happen to have up here, and put the glue on the back of this. And I do say, go ahead and glue things quickly rather than thinking too much about it. Let your intuition guide you. So I was just going to do this to the edge. Why am I doing this to the edge? One of the things that's kind of fun to do is to try to not be predictable. Like my initial thought might be to take this piece of the square and put it right smack in the middle. But I know that that's something that I tend to do a lot. So I'm going to just try gluing it to the very edge like this. I have no idea how this is going to turn out, but I'm just going to dive right in. And, you know, while I'm doing this, maybe I'll just use a couple more of these shapes that I've got. And maybe this one I'll decide to cut right around the brush stroke instead of doing a square. See, this is where you have lots of choices within the rules. The point is here, within the rules, you have a lot of creative possibility. And sometimes you just need the rules to help you focus a bit and not make it all quite so terrifying. In other words, you know, you don't get so worried about every little thing, and you just have to kind of put it down and let it happen. So anyway, I've cut out this interesting shape here. Another thing you could do is just work with shapes. So on this one, and why don't I use this other sheet color that I've made, I'm going to glue this one. And, you know, when you're gluing, it's nice to use a piece of paper that you don't care about so much. And then you can just use that as your background, and enables you to get your adhesive where you want it, and also enough, because you really do want to get to the edges. Otherwise, these pieces have a tendency to kind of peel up. All right, so this one I'm just going to kind of put right here. Yeah, and then why don't we go to our piece of the music painting and use that one now, just to show you what you can do with that possibility. So maybe this one, why don't we tear? So I'm just going to, you know, it sort of feels good to tear your work and to just learn not to be feeling precious about it, you know. You can tear it And it doesn't matter, you know that you can make more. And sometimes, you know, you just discover more beauty when you tear these up. So I made a little sort of torn circle, and I'm going to put some glue on the back. And flip this over and back a bit with the glue. And let's see, why don't I put this one right over to the side, because it's another thing that's a little bit more unusual. And if I see that I don't have quite enough glue and it flips up a little bit, just stick your glue back in there. So we have 3 pieces begun, and it didn't take very long. So now we have 3, and you know, you're going to try and do 10. So that's one way to get started. Now, the next rule would be to create a stencil and apply the stencil to somewhere on your piece that you've got so far. So those of you who have taken printmaking before know a lot about stencils. But if you have not, and I don't think that's too many of you right now, what you can simply do is take a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be very big. And all you need to do really is to fold it in half, take your scissors, and maybe just cut out a shape like this. You've got a stencil. Maybe you want something a little bit more interesting than that, which is fine. So go back into that shape that you've got just cut and perhaps change it a little bit, add a little bit to it. There you go. And now you've got a stencil shape that, as you can see, can really change your pieces. So let's go back to black here on this one. And by the way, I want you to keep 1 or 2 stencils. So do not have a zillion possibilities, but you know, to try and keep it very simple. And when you have a stencil like this, you simply just hold it down. And I've got this one overlapping both the background and the shape that I put down. And it doesn't matter if it's perfect, you know, it can be a little off, but how nice, I can use this again someplace. Maybe I want to just cover that one up a little bit and maybe get a little less water and a little less paint on my brush so it's a little bit more gray. Try that. Pick it up. And I think I'll do that now with this next one. And maybe this one will go right off the page here. Maybe another one. Let's see. Down here. Maybe I'll change the way it's put down. I'll go sideways instead. And I'm not judging right now. I'm just playing, I'm just having fun. I'm just seeing what happens. You know, I like to use the words, what if? What if I did this? What if I did that? Instead of I should do this, or that's not a good design, or that one isn't as good as so-and-so's, you know, or all those critical voices that we hear in our heads that try to stop us from having fun and enjoying the process. And maybe this one we don't want to use black. Maybe I want to change the color that I'm going to be using, and maybe I want to actually use my background color, the other pink color that I had, and perhaps I want to make another stencil. So let's do that really quickly. Again, I like the idea of to do this quickly, just to fold it in half. Start just something kind of random. You know, maybe that's kind of cool without it actually changing it. And again, as you can see, I'm not spending a lot of time overthinking this. I'm just trying to go very quickly with a few gut reactions. How can I take this simple setup here and make it interesting? Try things out. I do know that people sort of bridle when I use the word use the phrase rule-based painting or rule-based art, because they think that it means that it has to be a certain way. No, what you're just doing is limiting your possibilities by creating a sort of arbitrary set of rules for yourself. That's all this is, just an arbitrary set of parameters, limitations, if you will, that just keep you from falling into the paralysis of, I don't know what to do, and it won't be any good anyway. So, and believe me, I've heard those same things in my own head, so I know whereof I speak. But this is a great way to just get over all of that and see what happens. So now I've done 3 pieces already. I don't know how long it took, but probably about 5 minutes. And they're each a little bit different. They're not terribly involved here, but each one is a kind of interesting. That's the active word, interesting. You know, that's what you are making. These are all interesting little, fairly quickly done designs that incorporate some of the things that you've already done. Okay, have fun.